Tonight, it's Family Feud.
Hello, and welcome to Family Feud. Tonight, we have a special theme, the American Dream. We also have two very special groups here tonight. Let's give a warm welcome to the 1920s historical figures and the Great Gatsby's characters. Now to introduce the first of our Great Gatsby characters.
Hello, I'm Nick Carraway. I'm the main character and the narrator of the story, and I've become a good friend of Mr. Gatsby, Jordan Baker, and Daisy while living in New York. And my American dream is to work hard, get a good education, and earn my money fairly. I couldn't take the job Gatsby offered me because I suspected corruption. The offer was obviously and tactless for a service to be rendered, so I had no choice except cut him off from finishing his offer.
Now to introduce another one of the Great Gatsby characters.
My name is Daisy. I'm the wife of Tom Buchanan and Nick's second cousin. Mr. Gatsby is also a very good friend of mine. I love to spend money and live life to the fullest.
Here's our third character from the Great Gatsby. Care to introduce yourself?
Of course, my name's Gatsby. I live in the West Egg of New York City. My house is actually right by Nick's. I've also sort of, been in love with the same woman since I met her as a young military officer. In her heart, I believe that she will also love me too.
Okay, now let me introduce you to our wonderful historical figures.
Hello, I'm Booker T. Washington, and I was a significant leader in the search for black equality and rights. Others may think I had the wrong idea, worrying more about economic equality than civil equality, but I was definitely just as committed to the cause. The American dream was really important to me. I worked hard to progress my race.
And who do we have here?
My name's Woodrow Wilson, and I used to be the President of the United States. I served from 1913 to 1920. I believed in the reform to the nation to help it adapt to the newer times.
Thank you, Mr. President. And last, but certainly not least,
Hi everyone, I'm Alice Paul. Even though I was an extreme promoter for many reforms, my main cause was women's suffrage. I worked tirelessly to help spread equality within our nation, and as a result, women finally gained the right to vote in 1920.
thank you, Mrs. Paul, for all your hard work. Now, let the games begin. And the first question is, what are some major themes in The Great Gatsby?
Well, it's corruption and greed. After all, when Myrtle and Tom were together, Myrtle became so overwhelmed by her new wealth with Tom that she tried to buy a lot of expensive stuff. She said, I'm gonna make a list of all the things I've got to get. A massage and a wave, a collar for the dog, and one of those cute ashtrays where you touch a spring and a wreath with a black silk bow. And on and on and on and on.
And that is our top answer. Corruption and greed played a major part in the novel because it affected the American dream and its decline during the 1920s. Good work, and now we'll turn it over to the Great Gatsby characters. Next up, Daisy. What is another important theme of the Great Gatsby?
I'm gonna go with justice and fairness, or the lack of it. So many characters in the book search for justice, just as people do nowadays. For example, women across the world sometimes don't have equal rights as men, whether it's socially, economically, or civilly, even if they want it.
Yes, that is another answer that you have on the board. Mr. Gatsby, what's another significant theme of The Great Gatsby?
Social classes. Daisy, her voice is full of money because she is a woman of such high class and wealth.
That's another one you've got, but can you get the final answer, Nick?
Well, I'm gonna have to go with bravery and courage. I mean, to help form the American dream, you need both of those things.
I'm sorry, but unfortunately that's not one of our answers. Daisy, do you have an answer?
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna have to go with the idea of old versus new money. For example, my husband, Tom, brought down a string of polo ponies from Lake Forest. It was hard to realize that a man of my generation was wealthy enough to do that.
And that's the last one. Good work, Great Gatsby characters. You've got 140 points already. Are we ready for our next question? Let's have the next two up for the challenge. Your next question is, who are some important reformers and activists in the 1900s?
Duh, Alice Paul.
But of course, turns out Alice Paul is among us in more than one way tonight, folks. Mrs. Paul, name us another reformer of the early 1900s.
I'll have to say Jane Addams.
There's another one. Jane Addams, ladies and gentlemen, was a huge activist and advocate in the settlement house movement to help end tenement use in America and to help immigrants adapt to the U.S.
Yes, during our time, she helped progress the American dream for immigrants who were otherwise unable to reform to the American lifestyle.
Right you are, Mr. Washington. Up next, Mrs. Paul. Do you know another important leader of the reform during your time?
Well, I can't help but think of my fellow women's rights supporters, Anna Howard Shaw.
Good work, but can you get those last two left? Mr. Wilson?
Well, I'm going out on a limb here. I just got to go with Upton Sinclair, the author of The Jungle.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. That risk didn't pass off. But that's only one strike. Mr. Washington, was that an important reformer activist of the early 1900s?
Well, I don't know. Tom Johnson?
Ah yes, Tom Johnson, avid supporter of the reform of the U.S. political structure. Let's see if it's on the board. And that's two strikes, historical figures. One more and you'll pass your points to your opponent. So be careful. So let's join our other team, historical figures. Mr. Washington, can you name us another important activist of the early 1900s?
I've got to say W.E.B. Du Bois. He helped reform American culture and ideas, which supported their American dream in reaching full economic, social, and civil equality.
And Mr. Wilson, with a point still on the line.
This is a tough one, but I've got to try Eugene Debs.
Wow, and they managed to hold through. That leaves them with a score of 140 and tying it up against the Great Gatsby characters, who also have 140 points. Alright, contestants, we need our final pair up here for the last question. Our bonus question. This will cover tonight's theme, the American Dream. And the first person to buzz in must not only answer the question correctly, but also explain their reasoning. Good luck, contestants! And our bonus question is, do you believe that the American dream is still alive in modern day society? Alice Paul, would you like to answer?
Sure. Yes, the American dream is still alive in modern day. Even though its influence surely decreased during the 1920s and the Great Depression, it's proved itself strong and able to persist on. Some reformers of the early 1900s may not have been successful as my women's rights movement, but they didn't give up hope. Therefore, the American dream can survive today's recession strong and able.
Now to Mr. Gatsby.
I totally agree. During my time in the story, it seems like nearly all hope is lost because the American dream is hindered by corruption and greed of the wealthy, especially by the upper social classes. I believed in the green light, the future that year by year recedes
Thank
upon
you both,
us.
Mrs. Paul and Mr. Gatsby. You are both correct. If the American dream could survive the challenges it did, like the Great Depression, it surely should have no problem staying alive today. So I guess that means this game ends up as a tie. Both our Great Gatsby characters and our 1900s historical figures will take home the prize of... So, that's all we have today for you tonight, folks. Be sure to join us next time when we see former British kings take on the reigning champs. Types of fruit. Bye!
Yeah!
Oh no, don't go over there.
I'm sorry. Can you name us another important?
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Thank you, both Mrs. Paul and Mr. Is the American... Shoot, sorry.
That's fine.
What, Nick? Sorry, start it over. Do I say Nick? Yes. That's another answer that... Wait, that you have. Sorry.
That you have
American
before.
Sorry.
Okay.
For immigrants,
We're
oops.
Catnip, anyway.
Okay.
I've been in love with the same woman since I met her as a young military officer.
Yeah.
Is it
You
right?
changed the quote.
No, I just got it in Porky asked year by year.
Oh,
receive-
Wait. Until now?
Cover tonight's theme. Sorry, I just forgot who I'm
Oh, I don't want to say that. We're having bloopers. That's
Go
just
ahead,
more
Manny.
work for us.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's just
Do I have to
go.
say Orgy Aztec?
Okay. No,
Being hindered by corruption and greed. Oh shoot. I got like I missed a part.